What up, my Sport Nation? Before I start this video, I just want to give a shout out to all 7 of my subscribers. My fame is rising very quickly, and I couldn't have done all this without you, so I want to thank everyone first, and I'm going to try to promise to be humble, but I'm becoming a pretty big deal pretty quickly, so I can't hold my promises for sure, but that's my goal. Carry on with this video. I'm going to do the draft class for the Chicago Bears today, and they are another one of my favorite drafts for this year. And not just drafts, they had a ridiculous offseason. They brought in a lot of talent, and they're forming their team in the right way, and they're about to be a force for years to come. So let's get into why I think. With their first pick in the draft, the Bears went with Roquan Smith, inside linebacker out of Georgia. Now, to many, he was the #1 linebacker on the board. But despite being the #1 linebacker, he fell all the way to the 8th spot. And there's one main reason why this is the case. But for now, let's focus on what he's really good at. And what he's really good at is in being instinctual, tackling in space, tackling in general, flowing sideline to sideline and downhill. And he's really athletic, and he's incredibly fast and has great closing speed. And this comes in handy in today's modern NFL because a lot of teams like to have their other weapons be a tight end as a mismatch or a running back as a mismatch. And when you get a linebacker like Roquan Smith who can cover incredibly well, flow sideline to sideline very well, tackle in space, what you really can do there is take away a lot of these teams' mismatching ability. So for the Eagles, you have Ertz as a tight end or Trey Burton. And for other teams, you get running backs who are very explosive down low. And so getting Roquan in the middle of your field allows you to kind of control that middle and forces teams to play not their strengths and try to beat you another way. The one thing Roquan Smith is not great at, and why he fell a little bit, is he's not great at taking on blockers. And so we'll show in some highlights in this Oklahoma game where they ran at him on purpose often, and the blockers were able to just erase him from the play. And this is not the biggest deal in the world because some of the better linebackers in the NFL, you talk about Deion Jones, Levante David, Telvin Smith, are all very much like this, and Roquan is considered a type like them, whereas they can't take on the blockers. But if you have big men up front and other good linebackers that can absorb these blockers and allow Roquan to do what he's best at, which is running, chasing down players, and tackling in space and covering, then that's okay. You can get away with that. So despite this main big flaw for Roquan, he's a great pick for the Bears because you add him to the linebacking core that can assist in covering some of these mismatches. And then you go ahead and you add the safety unit that they have, which is a phenomenal safety unit. And you're talking about a team that can really take away all these other teams' advantages, so to speak, and force the team to play a different way. With their second pick in the draft, the Bears selected James Daniels, center out of Iowa. Now, a lot of people were surprised by this pick because they have Cody Whitehair at center, but they lost Josh Sitton to free agency this year, and he's going to the Dolphins. And the important thing about that is Josh Sitton was one of the top guards in the NFL the last few years, and he was a really big component of the zone blocking scheme. So in losing him, they needed to replace their interior line. And drafting James Daniels, whose biggest strength is his athleticism and his good footwork and his zone blocking ability, now they can put him at center and move Cody Whitehair over to guard. And the biggest strength to this Bears offense can remain the biggest strength, which is their zone running scheme. And the interior is the most important part of that. So shoring that up was why this is such a good pick. And James Daniels, you see a million highlights of what he's good at with moving and zone blocking. But another thing he's really good at is making sure he gets to the second level. And that's important for zone run blocking because it really leads to some of the bigger plays and prevents penetration. And I'll show you this one play simply because here you'll see James Daniels as he tries to release to the second level after helping out the guard, is he kind of gets tripped up, but he's still able to make a play. And that's like another thing, not to compare him to Marshall Yonda because he went to Iowa, but one thing that makes Marshall Yonda so good is Yonda's great at releasing and getting to the second level, whatever means possible, even if he's on his hands and his knees. And this play right here kind of shows too. Off the snap, Daniels assists the guard, sees the linebacker, and gets tripped up a little bit, and is a little out of position. But even though he's out of position, he has the athleticism to turn his hips and throw his body, and enough strength to throw the linebacker off the line to gain. And it's a really big play because it throws him off of his line and allows Wadley to go across the edge and just run upfield for the touchdown. To show one more fun highlight of James Daniels here against Rutgers, and kind of shows his strength too. Off the snap, you'll see James Daniels right here at center, and given the angle, you can see the D tackle is lined up kind of over his left shoulder, his outside shoulder. The run play is going to come to this side. Not only does James Daniels have good burst off the snap to get kind of in front of him, but you'll see that he has a good feel for defender's leverage and is able to just pancake him, spring this run. Now, right off the bat, you see he goes from being on the outside shoulder of the defensive lineman, or the defensive lineman's left shoulder, crosses his face and immediately gets to his right shoulder right off the snap. And as the plays carry on, he gets leverage too and just pancakes him for a beautiful block, and Wadley's able to just turn this upfield for yet another big play because of great blocking. With their third pick in the draft, the Bears selected Anthony Miller, wide receiver out of Memphis. Now, this guy is maybe my favorite receiver for the last 2 or 3 years in college football. He's so exciting to watch. And he's a former walk-on, didn't get recruited. And he's just incredibly competitive when the ball's in the air. He's a really refined receiver, even though he plays in a slightly spread offense. And he can make so many difficult plays. Now, a lot of people kind of compare him to Antonio Brown, and I'm not going to call him Antonio Brown. But when you watch him, he kind of reminds you of that. And when you're scouting receivers, you want to look at all the normal things. You want to look at straight line speed. You want to look at his cutting speed, his quickness, his ability to run routes, his intelligence working through zone, and how to manipulate defenders in man, how to get off press, catching rate, and contested catches. But another thing that I think is super important and speaks to route running and athleticism is watching receivers in tight spaces work to get open. Now, you would talk about a situation where a team's maybe on like the 15-yard line, a DB's playing off yards, and off the hike, the receiver doesn't have many yards to work with before the back of the end zone, yet is still able to get open. And I feel like that's something Anthony Miller does incredibly well. He's just really savvy and really refined and really competitive when the ball is in the air. You see some of these catches where he's making one-handed catches and making contested catches. He's good at all that. But he's also so quick. And they use him in so many ways. They use him downfield. They use him in bubble screens. They use him on slants. He's really good with the ball in his hand. Here on this play, you see him beating Mike Hughes, who was a first-round draft pick for the Vikings. And he does have the whole other side of the field to work with. But he's still able to get open, create the separation, and make the catch on the first-round draft pick. He's one of these players that I see coming in right away and making an immediate impact, and he can make all the catches. And so this next play that shows his ability to make these contested NFL-type catches. So this play, you see Anthony Miller make what is considered an NFL-level catch for quite a few reasons. One, he's running a comeback route. The play breaks down, his quarterback scramble. He might even be throwing this away. But anyways, he throws the ball up to Anthony Miller. It's a comeback route, so he knows he needs to come back. But a lot of prospects will kind of stop on their route, turn around, and not come back to the ball. He is always coming back to the ball. It's so important, especially in the NFL, is come back to the ball, work back to the ball for the quarterback. Not only does he do that, but then he tops this catch off with such a tight, contested sideline catch. Drags both feet, and it is absolutely beautiful. You don't see many players do this coming out of college in the NFL and coming out of college. So this is one of those things that he's more developed than a lot of receivers and has great awareness. I could go on and on about all the great plays Anthony Miller makes because it's just so many. But I'll just show one more. And it's actually not this play, even though this is a great contested catch. It's this next play against UCLA. It's a deep ball, gets beyond the man, and the kind of catch he makes, completely outstretched, full sprint, able to pull that out, not bobble it. The type of athleticism it takes to do that is just something you don't see from receivers often. In the fourth round, the Bears took linebacker out of Western Kentucky, Joel Iyebuniwe. This guy played inside and outside linebacker at Western Kentucky, so he's pretty versatile, and he was one of the leading tacklers and leading defenders on this defense. And when you read about him and you watch him play, he's very rangy. He's got great speed sideline to sideline, very athletic, and he's kind of got all the traits you would want out of being able to develop a linebacker. The things he really needs to improve are his technique and his instinct, but he's a very quick player. He can be really good in coverage if he's used properly. He still has to develop in coverage. But when you watch him, you notice like his speed flash on film, his closing ability. And here's one play. It's hard to find film on him, but on this play, you'll see he's right here, and it's nothing special coverage-wise, but he ends up having to cover this linebacker down here, flow to him. And he flows fast and makes a strong tackle. Now he gets lit up, but he makes a really sure tackle on a linebacker who is a converted running back and is 240 pounds. So you can see that he's a good, short tackler. Another thing that shows up on film about him is his ability to use his length to hold at the point of attack and get to his gap on time. And when you watch like the Marshall game where he had 15 tackles and the Middle Tennessee game I showed, when offensive linemen get to the second level on him, he's able to usually control them. So unlike the video where I showed you of Kenny Young or Roquan Smith, where when linemen get to them, they're pushed out of the way, he usually can hold his ground and kind of force the offensive linemen to fall to their knees, and he can use his hold. Now, the one thing he needs to get better at is disengaging from the blocks to make the tackle. But in terms of beating the right hole and filling his hole and not losing his ground, he's really good at that. This game, they played Alabama in 2016. You'll see Joel right here and O.J. Howard here. O.J. Howard's considered one of the better blockers of that draft class.
Here they take advantage.
And for this play, you'll see that he actually ends up getting double teamed, kind of. And he's able to shed the block and make a nice tackle on the play. And that's just something you see from him. And they say he needs to get better at that. But he is pretty good at that right now. And so not only is he fast, but he's good with almost 33-inch arms to hold his play and make a tackle. One more play showing his speed and power. On this play, you'll see Alabama's going to run outside here. Joel's right here. And it is only a Darius Stewart that's trying to block him, so it's not like a power guy. But you'll see his good and his bad. On the play, he'll sweep outside, and he's just going to burst and shove Darius Stewart way back in the running lane. The only thing he doesn't do is end up making the tackle, and David Harris still gets a lot of yards. So it's one of those things where he does a great job, has great power, and gets in that lane and forces the running back wider. Yeah, he could use some help from the defense. It was still a really good play from him to force Harris all the way outside and slow him down a little. But if he can just disengage as well, that would really add to his game. And right now the Bears are they're gonna just use him on special teams. He's so fast, and you can see how quick he is moving downhill, and the tackles he can make. And he's just to start out on special teams and be a huge contributor right away. And then after that, they hope to develop him from a speed rushing perspective because he's an excellent blitzer. He's good getting the quarterback, and he's got good length. With their 5th round pick, the Bears selected Bilal Nichols, defensive tackle out of Delaware. This kid's a project, but he's got an NFL body. He's 306 pounds, 6'4", and he's got almost 34-inch arms, so he's got really good reach. And it's not easy to find film on him, but he played pretty well for this Virginia Tech game. And mostly for this Virginia Tech game, they ran a 3 defensive lineman set, and he was double teamed all game. If you watch the game, he's actually responsible mostly for spying the quarterback as a defensive tackle. He's kind of holding the middle of the field and then spies, and he's double teamed this entire game. And what you'll notice is he holds the point of attack with the double team and is able to disengage and run sideline to sideline, which shows that he's a good anchor and has good speed laterally. And this play is not that, though. This play is a good example of his run stuff. You have Bilal Nichols right here. He's going to end up being double teamed, and he kind of just fights off the double team and makes the tackle. And you see this the whole Virginia Tech game, so it's good to see against competition, D1 competition, that he doesn't move off the double team and he's able to disengage and make a good tackle. This play right here shows what I'm talking about, where he's used as a QB spy as a defensive tackle. You don't really often see that being used, but what that tells you is that they trust him speed-wise, athletically, to be able to make that play. You have Bilal right here. It's off the blitz. Josh Jackson noticed it, breaks free. You got Bilal up here being double teamed. He notices he's breaking free, and he doesn't end up making this tackle, but you see that he's got the lateral speed to keep up with Josh Jackson and force him to slow down. Now, again, he doesn't make the tackle, so that's something he needs to improve on, but at least he shows the athleticism and the speed to be able to force that, and his usage alone suggests that he's that athletic and can be used like that. So, I mean, first thought in my mind is special teams being used on the line because of his speed. One more play from this Virginia Tech game. Bilal Nichols right here gets double teamed on a run, and you see his ability to anchor. The double team doesn't even budge him. So he's definitely got good power and good NFL traits. He just needs to develop them. Last play for Bilal Nichols I'll show is the Senior Bowl. And got him right here at a 4 defensive set. A 3rd and long that shows his pass rushing. And he's only one-on-one with the defender, but in the Senior Bowl, you're playing against the best competition. And in this, you see that he does show the ability when single blocking to be able to rush the quarterback. And he doesn't have elite speed or anything, but he can do it, and he can do it at the Senior Bowl. So there's something to develop there in him. The 6th round pick, Utah took Callie Fitz, defensive end out of Utah. Now, this guy is a really intriguing pick in the 6th round because he has a lot of NFL traits, and it flashes on film. The problem is he was unable to stay healthy, and he was unable to stay healthy for a long time. So there's a lot of things he's going to need to work on, improve consistency. But between his game film and his combine workout, you have a lot of stats that suggest he could translate well eventually. And at the combine, he ran the 3-cone and the 20-yard shuttle as almost the fastest out of all linebackers and defensive ends, which is impressive for his size. He's also got 33-inch arms, and you see that flash here on film right away. The concept is the 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle shows the ability to react and short yard explosiveness, which is something you want to see from a pass rusher. And so with his length and his speed and his size, you hope and you see with the 6th round pick that you can get a premium pass rusher out of this, but it's yet to be seen whether he can develop into it. But the good thing is he has the ability to. You just gotta hope that he can stay healthy and translate. And he'll probably be used because they run a 3-4 scheme. He'll probably be used on the outside solely as a pass rusher, kind of the way Leonard Floyd. Well, Leonard Floyd plays everything, but you think about his ability to use his length to get around the edge and make plays. With the final pick of the draft, the Bears took Javon Wims, wide receiver out of Georgia. Now, Javon Wims is one of my favorite receivers in this draft as well. One of the things he does best is jump balls. He's a former high school basketball player, went to college for basketball too, transferred. He's 6'3", 6'4", and he had a vertical of 33 inches, which isn't elite by any means, but when you watch him play, he makes a lot of contested catches and jump balls, so he's really good at that. One thing that you worry about when you see a lot of contested catches is they can't create a lot of separation because they're not explosive, and that's one of the knocks on him, but he is ridiculous in his jump balls, and he'll have time to develop as a route runner in the NFL. And he's here. We'll show this play where he makes a really nice jump ball catch, and not only does he make it, but he has the ability to turn after making the catch, put his hand down, keep his body up, and reach over for a touchdown. A lot of players might make the catch and just fall down, but he has the awareness to spin and put his hand down and reach over the line. That's just something extra that makes you think he's a little more special than just any jump ball receiver. We got another play here against Florida that is just an absolutely absurd catch. Jump ball situation. It reminds me of Allen Robinson, honestly. I mean, look at that grab. He comes up, the defender is in perfect position, and Javon Wims just goes up, stops, goes up, and just jumps straight over him, makes a ridiculous catch. And this is something where it reminds me of Allen Robinson, like I said, and maybe this thinking is they want to play a specific style of football, so they go out and they get someone who reminds them of Allen Robinson, who can make these contested catches because it'll be an important part of their game. But when you watch him too, deep balls and jump balls, I guess from his basketball skills or whatever, I don't know, you notice that it's almost effortless for him to track the ball. He doesn't even really have to try. He's just going to be there, and he's going to make really nice catches. And he's going to make the contested catches. And I think that there's something to develop here. The only thing that's going to hold him back is his lack of explosiveness, so to speak. But that's something that you can develop his route running to help him create separation. But you got to work on him being able to get off the press. But that's all stuff that can be worked on. And you just kind of hope from him that you can get that. But in the meantime, at least they've drafted a trait from a starting receiver that they have to at least add depth for now, and hope that that can translate into either eventually a replacement or at least a backup that can play the jump ball contested catch role and play that in the red zone. One more play from him just to show a little more highlights is this play. It shows a trait in the NFL that you want to see as well, and that's late hands to catch the ball. A lot of players in college don't have those late hands, and they go up early, and if they go up late, they can't catch it, or if they go up early, they give away to the defensive back that they're going up to catch, and it gives the defensive back a chance to adjust. And in that catch you saw, he was able to get up late hands and still catch the ball. And so when you watch some of these highlights that I'm showing you, I mean, you see some of these NFL traits, like the jump ball, the ability to use late hands, the special body control to turn around and reach the ball over the goal line. These are all things that that's why I like him. He runs a lot of hitches and comebacks because he's a deep threat, because he can do vertical routes. And I think that he could end up being a factor, and maybe not in the first year, again, he has to develop against the press, but there are traits there that could suggest he can become a wide receiver too at some point. So to wrap everything up, the Bears had a hell of a draft and one of my favorites. And then not just that, I mentioned the offseason that they had as well. So we're looking right here at their depth chart, and you can clearly see their intent with where they're trying to go direction-wise with this team. You know, they hired Matt Nagy from Kansas City, which is where Doug Peterson came from. And then you look at the type of players they have and type of scheme. They have a solid offensive line because James Daniels is going to plug in here. Cody Whitehair will slide to guard. And they can run the ball with Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen. They can throw it to Tariq Cohen. They've got three solid tight ends in Adam Shaheen, Deion Sims, and Trey Burton. Trey Burton, coming from Philly, is going to play possibly what you would think would be the Zach Ertz role. Deion Sims can play a blocking role. You've got a good run game. You got Mitchell Trubisky, who's a mobile quarterback. You immediately think of the Eagles and how they built their team. You have Allen Robinson with length, who can run good routes to the jump ball, kind of like Alshon Jeffrey. And then you have Anthony Miller on the other side, who can play this other outside role. Or maybe he could even fit in the slot. And then you've got Taylor Gabriel as well in the slot, who both might be able to. One of them can emerge as this Nelson Aguilar role. And you have someone on the outside, whether it's Kevin White, I doubt it's Kevin White. It's probably Gabriel or Anthony Miller, who's the deep threat. And all of a sudden, you're starting to see that it almost looks like they're trying to copy this Eagles formula, and they have the right personnel to do it. And then even defensively down here, they have their line they're going to need to improve. They don't have a ton of depth on that line, but especially to keep Roquan clean. But you got Danny Trevathan, who's a good run-stopping linebacker. You got Roquan, who's built to take away those mismatches. You have Leonard Floyd as a good pass rusher. And then you've got two of the best safeties in the league. Eddie Jackson is a good single-high safety. Adrian Davis, who plays ridiculous in the box. And they're also versatile, just like the safeties for Philly. And so you start to look at this team and their coaching staff and their personnel, and you can't help but think they're trying to copy the Philadelphia Eagles. And they've had a wonderful offseason, have acquired great personnel, and I immediately see them as a very dangerous team. The question is, can Mitch Trubisky step up in his second year? And I don't see him playing like Carson Wentz at all. But, you know, he could be good. And so the question you have is, you know, how quickly does this team translate? Is it another year of experience and adding some depth at the defensive line? Because that's the only thing they haven't copied from Philly yet, is getting a really deep, strong defensive line to keep coming at defenses through four quarters. But I'll make another video on the Bears and what I see them doing and how good they could be. But for now, hats off to them. They're looking really impressive, and they're going to be a threat in a division that's now full of the Packers and the Vikings, and an improving Lions team that is looking to be one of the better divisions in football. And let's have a little fun here and wrap up the segment with a little fun. Adrian Amos hitting Cole Beasley. This is one of my favorite plays all year. Watch it. Let's watch it again and again. Oh, yeah! 80 stings! Oh, yeah!